Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hello, Legatus Legionis. I am Thomas. I am a man of prayer, and I am a teacher of prayer. A lot of people think that the charismatic prayer is nothing but a bunch of emotionalism. They have pictures of people raising their hands or clapping or maybe even dancing a little bit, you know. But the charismatic prayer and the charismatic movement was so much more than people raising their hands or clapping when they sing. It was much, much more than that. The effects of the charismatics affected the whole church. Whether you've ever been to a charismatic prayer meeting or not, you have been affected by the charismatic renewal. Now you're sitting there thinking like, well, all they do is clap their hands and raise their hands, and they're also kind of creepy, you know, they pray in tongues, you know, but if that's what you think the charismatic movement is about, you are really missing out. You're missing out on people whose lives were transformed from being dead Catholics to alive Catholics. People whose faith was a concept, a theory, to a real faith in a living Jesus Christ. I myself was influenced by the charismatic movement. Before the influence of the charismatic movement in my life, God was an abstract idea. After I spent a few years with the charismatics, God was a living God, and God was living in me in the power and presence of the Holy Spirit. So what is it with all this raising of the hands and clapping and singing, you know, Protestant songs or Pentecostal songs is what they are? Well, the charismatic movement kind of came into the church a little bit from the Pentecostals. And so we kind of absorbed their music, and we also absorbed some of their ideas about prayer and praise. In the Pentecostal movement, you know, singing and clapping your hands, raising your hands when you pray, all of these things kind of got absorbed by the charismatic movement. But does that really mean that the charismatics are nothing but a bunch of emotion? Now, I'm not going to deny that there's an emotional element, but do you really think that God denies the emotional element when it comes to prayer? As my teacher of prayer told me, the affective is also important. Okay, so what place do emotions have in prayer? Are they vital? No, emotions are not vital in prayer. Prayer is done by faith and love and hope. But emotions in prayer also encourage us. And there are some things that we call feelings that may be a little bit beyond feelings. We can talk about experiencing God's presence, or we could talk about, you know, smelling roses where there isn't any roses or perfume. There are various experiences that people have where the Holy Spirit is saying, I am here. I am here with you. These encouraging signs and these insights, and yes, sometimes feelings, greatly encourage people to make the journey of prayer. And prayer is a journey. Prayer is not a speculation. Prayer is a journey of faith, and it is done by faith. But emotions may not be necessary, but they help to encourage us to make the journey, which sometimes becomes very difficult. So, in the charismatic movement, we saw many, many people who were dead come to life. That is one of the greatest things, that's one of the greatest legacies of the Charismatics, is that many, many people came to relate to a living God. And then the other thing is that people were also healed of things. There were priests with gifts of healing, Father de Grandes and Father de Orio. There were others, and they would hold healing ministries and they would pray for people. And Father de Orio did have actual, healings. There were actual healings of people of terminal illnesses. And then there were a lot of other kinds of healings that happened to people. There were lots of hearts that were transformed. There were families that were changed. There were people that were raised up in hope. So the next time you think about people raising their hands, or clapping their hands, or singing Protestant Pentecostal songs at a charismatic prayer meeting, try to keep in mind that one of the things that the charismatic movement was all about was a revitalization of the action of the Holy Spirit within the church itself. And this didn't happen only in the Catholic Church. It happened in all Christian churches. Some responded to it, some rejected it. The bishops did not reject the charismatic movement within the church. I know, I was there in the middle of it in the 80s. Today, I am a man of contemplative prayer. That is another thing. Many of those who started out as contemplatives became very, extremely strong, devout Catholics. So, all this stuff about the emotionalism of the Charismatics, you need to think again. Those that were part of the movement, some people are still charismatics, are having a living faith. Do you have a living faith? This is Legatus Legionis. Say a prayer for me. I am praying for you. I will talk to you later.